I'm Simon Brown, creator of the Wand Turntable and Tonearm. This video is just talking about some of the detail setup of the dark light tonearm. Watch the first video for the basic setup. So in this video we're going to talk about anti-skate, azimuth, zenith, and using the second supplied cartridge mount. The wand anti-skate's a little interesting in that it's here and it's a classic falling weight on a piece of fine fishing line. The interesting thing is it's also part of the sideways bearing design, so that by providing a little weight on it, it's always loaded up the bearing in that plane to keep it more rigid than most unipivot arms. So it's pretty straightforward. You just wind that little weight in and out according to how you like to set anti-skate. I mean, the internet's rife with opinions varying from don't use it at all to it's deeply important and so on. Anti-skate relates to the coefficient of friction between a stylus and groove, so it's very variable depending on the stylus profile, the groove you're actually playing, the moment of the record you're playing, the cleanliness of everything. So the answer is probably how much anti-skate? Some, but it's up to you. Anyway, you can adjust it, you can use a blank record, you can use an oscilloscope, whatever works for you. The next thing I'm going to talk about is azimuth, which is the rotation angle of the arm. This is adjustable at the rear here. There's another thumb screw that you just loosen off slightly. And it's probably easiest if I show you on this other arm. What we're doing is we're loosening off that thumb screw, and then by moving that pointer to the left or to the right, it twists the whole arm, rotates it left or right. What it's doing is it alters the position of the side bearing thrust, tilting the arm back and forth. Contact us if that's inadequate, because there is a way you can do it in the head shell too, but that's the main way and should do 99% of people. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is zenith adjustment, which is, I believe, a unusual feature of the dark light tonearm. I mean, so zenith adjustment is the twist of the stylus in the groove, and so that it relates to both the tracking errors but also on how the stylus is actually being glued onto the cantilever. And it generally requires quite large amounts of skill to set it up and measure it, but there are people out there who have that service, or you may be able to do that. Anyway, it's one of the features of the Wand Tonearm that you can do that. The adjustment is this point here, the rear. So we loosen off the front one very slightly, but the rear one a little more. And for most people, most of the time, who aren't worried about it or aren't able to measure it, the little pointer there just runs up and down the arm. And so what we're doing to adjust the zenith is that you can see as I twist it left and right, it pivots it around that point, which is above where the stylus is. So that can adjust it. Again, there's markings on the head shell to remind you of where you were. That brings us to a minor other point, which is sort of in the expert dark light user perspective. If when you're adjusting the overhang you run out of travel you're trying to make it go back further or forward further than seems to be possible. The position of this cam, you can turn it around the other way and it'll give you a little more travel in both directions, but that really shouldn't be something most people are having to deal with. Okay, the final thing I'd like to talk about is both using the tap plate that we supplied for cartridges that need a screw from below, or it's just simply more convenient, like a Denon 103. You can obviously mount the cartridge on this plate before presenting it to the arm. But this is also relevant if you decide, rather than trying to line the cartridge screw up through the hole, you actually just want to take the whole plate off, or you buy a number of these because it helps you do a quicker cartridge change. So I'm just going to talk about putting the cartridge carrier, probably you will have pre-mounted the cartridge on it, onto the arm. Note that this is one of the cases where you probably would decide to have the transit lock on, just because it stops the arm flopping around. Okay, so I find that the technique I'm just sharing with you as an easy way to do it is, I find if I hold the cartridge carrier out to the side, slide the screw to the front, and then it's easier to get that one started. You can get it most of the way there, then swing that around, get it roughly in the middle, and then put the rear screw with its adjusting boss on and screw that into place. And then generally I line the zenith straight up and down, and you obviously park it where you're either trying to get the holes for the screws, or as a previous use, the overhang setting should be. So if you have any other questions about the setup, contact us directly or contact your dealer.